Hello, everyone, to the PH Next Rising podcast.
Speak up, Max.
Phoenix is falling, and so are we. I am Max Simpson, joined here by Mr. Owen Evans. We come to you live from Phoenix Rising Stadium, where Phoenix Rising lost 1-0 to Birmingham Legion in their season opener. Lots of fun before the game, lots of merriment. Spirits were high, and, now we're talking here after a 1-0 loss. Owen, what do we make of this?
Okay, here's where I'll give you the kind of 10,000 foot view, right?
Okay.
Defense was okay.
Yeah.
We'll get better.
We're going to get into this.
We'll get into that, but obviously it doesn't take much for you to see that some players were not out there today.
Yep.
We've spoken in the past about this, sometimes in more general terms rather than specifics, but you can probably, if you're watching on at home, you can probably piece together why that's the case. If you look at the attack, it was better than some of the preseason games. The finishing still wasn't there, and it still could get better in terms of chance creation and the like. I'm not ready to say that this is anything that we should be especially panicked about. I think there's a process in place. I think still to an extent you've got to get over the line a little bit, and I think once you do, that helps a lot in terms of confidence and building that. But it still doesn't feel great, I think, coming off a game like that.
No, it doesn't feel great. With the loss, I kind of echo pretty much a lot of what you said. Defensively, other than a couple of there was that 5-minute stretch, especially towards the end of the first half, where it was just frantic. It was chaos. Rising, amazed that they didn't leak 2 goals in. But really outside of that, the goal was in kind of absurd deflection, very unfortunate. Outside of that, defense actually, I think, played very well. Backline, who, like you said, there's a lot of people who are not there, held up pretty well. The attacking, I think Rising, especially in the second half, really grew into it, was a bit more on the front foot, as we've seen with this team before. Need to kind of get a little bit better in the final third. But the thing to me that is encouraging is, even though a lot of their shots were outside the box, they were going for it a little bit more than I think of where we've seen. Put it this way. Earlier in the point last season, it was a bit more, hey, still trying to build up, still a bit more methodical. I liked at least watching that this team was going for it a bit more, and hopefully that's going to yield some more chances along the way.
You know what? I'm not sure quite which way you're trying to format this post game, but so I may be hopping ahead of us a little bit.
Go
here,
for it,
Max.
buddy.
I didn't mind Rito. I think there's still a little bit of work to do there.
Yeah.
But I didn't mind Rito and his performance overall. I felt as though, again, you saw a lot of the kind of runs that you're going to want to see. If things are going to go well, you need Edgardo Rito making those runs up the flank. And we saw a lot of those runs.
Oh, yeah.
And they did pick him out on those a few times. Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. And some of the balls in were threatening. But again, there's still elements of that to work on. And again, part of that is a confidence thing, I'm sure. When you actually find that some of those connections start to work, you'll end up with some, things that I think overall are going to come together all right. It's such a weird one, right? Because to put this again in like a more general thing, right? When you look at a team that's just come off of a title win, you expect them to come back and really kind of play like a dominant force.
Yeah.
And Birmingham Legion, for example, I don't view them as a team that I think are a title contender this year. Right? Cool. So when you come in
by a lot of people
in the first game of the season in Phoenix as the defending champions, and you're playing a team that you kind of look at and say probably not a title contender, you expect more, I think, than what we saw tonight. Now,
sure,
I'll grab a little bit from Danny here, just talking about what he said. He said that he felt that they did create probably enough chances they could have come away with something from that match. I don't disagree with that.
Sure.
I think there was some poor finishing at times, especially. There were a couple of moments. One in particular really comes to mind with a shot from Rito, saved by Van Oekel, and it comes to Darius Formella, who just kind of taps it back to Van Oekel.
Yeah.
And he had the whole goal to aim at
Yeah.
from 3 yards out.
Yeah.
And It's moments like that that
Yeah.
come back to hurt you.
It does.
They really come back to hurt you.
It does. I mean, I'll get into something for a sec, but I do just want to shout out the chat because, by the way, you guys are awesome. This is the first post game we've done since the final. It feels damn good to be back, regardless of the result. It's awesome. Seeing Tyre in the chat. This needs work. Seeing Ryballs in the chat. Quite a few good individual performances tonight. Not all is lost. I completely agree. Edward in the chat. A little classy, a little trashy. That is well said.
You know what? I actually like the fact that our chat hasn't completely gone into panic mode, which
give it time. Give it time.
I feared. Yeah, give it a couple of weeks.
Give it a couple of weeks. No, it's I agree. I think really there were a couple of moments in this match, both in Rising's favor and out of Rising's favor, that just those individual moments, this game could honestly have a very different inflection point. Let's actually first let's paint it overall. Let's look at by the numbers. This will help us get into it a bit further. Looking at it from a high view, right? Phoenix Rising 0, Birmingham Legion 1. Yellow cards, right, is a very defining stat here. 4 for Birmingham Legion, 2 for Phoenix Rising. Possession in Rising's favor, 54-46. Shots, 18 for Phoenix Rising. A lot of those coming in the second half. 10 for Birmingham Legion. Shots on goal, 8 for Phoenix Rising, 3 for Birmingham Legion. Phoenix Rising, they had, didn't dominate possession, but they had more possession. They had more shots on goal. And I think that kind of leads into, there were a lot of individual moments, like you were mentioning, within this match, right? In the first half, that frantic kind of stretch of Birmingham Legion. Did they have a penalty that wasn't called? This might be the point. This might be the point.
All right, do we want to get into
let's get into it. Let's get into it.
Get into the refereeing talk. So we talk about Elvis Ismanovic tonight. We're putting some poll questions, by the way. I haven't currently got any answers on those. Yeah. So if I get those later in the show, I will read them out to you. If not, just wait around on Twitter and we'll put them out there.
On the beat on yours.
Probably on mine and then retweet. Okay.
Yeah.
Check both. They'll be there. Look, all right. And this is why I'll put them out on mine, because I'm going to also editorialize a little bit.
Yeah.
So let's start with the penalty shout.
Yeah.
You have to think about this in terms of there's so many moving parts to it, okay? No question it comes off of the arm.
Fat key clear handball.
Okay, yeah, I know, but I'm explaining.
Sure. And I'm telling from the chat.
Yeah. And here is where, while I'm explaining, and I think we can both kind of discuss it, right? And
sure.
I'm going to put up the exact terms from the laws so we can really get nice and picky. Because I know everyone loves this, right? Of course. Everyone loves really getting into this. But look, it kind of, he kicks it, miskicks it. His arm is out. The arm is moving in a lot of ways towards the ball, I think, at the time. And it does connect with the arm in a moment where it's a reasonable way away from the body.
It's like more or less here.
So in terms of the handling offenses, right, just to explain what would be, because most of these don't really count, but it's an offense if a player deliberately touches the ball with their hand or arm, for example, moving the hand or arm towards the ball, right? So that's the one that's often, again, if the arm is moving towards it, you're more likely to see it called, rather than if it's not moving towards it, you're less likely to see it called. The other potential way that you go down this is touches the ball with their hand or arm when it's made their body unnaturally bigger. A player is considered to have made their body unnaturally bigger when the position of their hand or arm is not a consequence of or justifiable by the player's body movement for that specific situation. By having their hand arm in such a position, the player takes a risk of their hand or arm being hit by the ball and being penalized. So that's where you then get into that question, right? So this happens right before the struggle halftime, pretty much. I've been speaking to a lot of people here today. They all have quite differing opinions on this one. And no one is questioning that it comes off the arm. And the arm is quite outstretched, I think, at the time. I'd say this. I think he was lucky. From the videos I've seen, I think that Rising were lucky that wasn't called in the moment. Whether it's the right call or not, and I think it sits, unfortunately, in one of those nice little grey areas where it could be, it could not be. It's still lucky because just all the optics of that. I was down here at the opposite end, and I'm looking down there, and I see it and just think immediately, that arm's way too far out. The arm is way too far out. Yes, I understand. And people will also get into the whole thing of, is it, well, if it deflects off another body part, that language is gone from the laws. It used to be there.
Yep.
It is gone from the laws. Can you maybe consider it a little bit in terms of some of those other considerations?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I just think Rising got quite lucky. And especially then shortly afterwards, there's a question of does the ball cross the line?
Yeah. So
I don't have a look on that. You said you did.
Yeah. So I'll get into that in just a second. Going back onto the handball question. I think it's very interesting, right? Where we often see in the modern game within, the leagues that have VAR, and this is not going to be a big VAR discussion. I'm going to put this in there. A lot of the times, right, you will see in a decision like that, perhaps the call is not made, or if it is made, but then it's re-refereed. There's a very good chance, right, that is not called. Then ball goes out of play. VAR goes it. Boom, it's a penalty. To me, with VAR not being in the situation, the fact that it
just doesn't have enough.
No. Again, this is not me saying VAR should or should not be here. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is because that's not in the situation, it's interesting to me that in the situation and given the context of everything, that it wasn't the gut reaction of boom, whistle, penalty, because it certainly felt that way. It might be different if you have VAR, but I think the fact that you didn't, it's interesting. Again, this is not an indictment on VAR, just kind of throwing out that nugget. I got a lot of interesting opinions, people kind of halfway, but the one that was most definite, and you were not on that, you were on the other side of the stadium, we were right behind the goal line, that was a goal. The one a few minutes later, right before the stroke of halftime, that was without a doubt the ball crossed the line at minimum by half a ball, but at most by a solid full soccer ball.
Is it between the goal line and the entire ball? There was that distance.
I'm talking about the entire ball was over the line.
Okay, so the gap between
was either half a ball. The gap between the line, and the ball was at least either half a ball or a ball. It was clearly over, no doubt about it.
See, I'm not in a position. I wasn't there to see that one. I can't give you any insight on that.
Jake Ty Guy Anderson will come on later. He will confirm. But yes,
he will probably say similar.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you were right by that goal. So, I mean, it can be deceiving. I would say that, however, from the exact positioning that you probably were in, it would be more likely to be deceiving.
We got the chat arguing. Fat Kid said did not cross the line. Siley said it was very much over the line. Listen, I know my eyes. They don't deceive me. They very much was over the line. Something that would very much dictated the game is our man of the match, actually. This is very apropos. Our man, man of the match. The man has left the building, but when he was in the building, he made quite the impact.
I hope he hasn't left the building, because I'm still owed some pool reporter questions.
I guess maybe he hasn't left.
I hope he's not left the building.
Maybe he's not. Elvis, folks. He's the referee of the match.
Elvis Ismanovich.
Yeah, Elvis Ismanovich. 6 yellow cards. 1, maybe 2 missed penalties, which we can get into the second half later. Definitely the missed goal, and there's linesmen. Definitely a lot going on. It's not solely on him, but definitely that was a chaotic match. Tensions were very high, especially down the stretch, and he was very much a talking point of it, whether you like it or not. I don't know, man of the match.
Yeah.
Who you ask.
I mean, Ismanovich he's an experienced USL referee. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Everyone has games like that. That's not a shock. They're not easy, but I'll say that in this moment, and Edward, by the way, they're not scabs in this league. They're not scabs. These guys have a collective bargaining agreement.
People were asking, but they're
not scabs. They're not scabs. The labor dispute does not involve USL Championship. Okay, so let's be clear on that one. I don't know. I just. There were still moments, and I know, like later on, obviously Rising had a penalty shout. I don't know on that one. I mean, again,
that one was definitely softer than what would have been called against them.
Yes. And
even
what I'll say is this though, and unfortunately, I think you see angles. You think, oh yeah. But are you seeing much that's very convincing? Now, the Pat My Boy one, we know again. We know it comes off the arm. There's a lot of questions then as to whether, what factors you consider and how you get to that decision, right? Okay. But the ball crossing the goal line, do we know that for certain, yes or no? Yes. The answer is, you say that, but is there a video angle? Has there been a broadcast angle that's shown it definitively? I don't think there has been.
Max Simpson's eyeballs. That's
but you aren't able to, right?
I can see.
Intervene on this. So cease. The Panos penalty, we see a potential Panos penalty. We see a replay of it that maybe there's contact, maybe there's not. How much contact there is, we don't entirely know.
Yeah.
The very nature of this is that we've got to be honest, right? People will do things like say, oh, we need VAR, we need VAR. You need to invest in the broadcast infrastructure, boys. Like, I'm sorry. This is the reality of it, right? VAR works in leagues where you have a large investment in broadcast infrastructure.
Yeah.
It does not work in leagues where that is not the case. Because you'll correct a few handful of things, but there are going to be many things, unfortunately, no one is going to be happy about because you cannot get a definitive answer. I don't think there'll be a single camera angle, genuinely, that will tell you for certain if that ball crossed that line. And I can tell you that with a good amount of certainty because I don't believe they have a camera on that goal line.
I mean,
do they?
no.
There's normally one close to the goal line that's close by us here, but that wasn't where the incident occurred. It occurred at the other end. I don't think they'd even have a camera that would give you a decent angle as to whether it necessarily crossed for certain or not. So, I don't know. I'm going to get into that one. There'd need to be more investment in that. I don't see USL doing that investment. That would have to be a league-wide real effort to get to that point because you've got to have that all also available, immediately available to officials to handle. I don't see that happening. So I'll get in there before that bit because I know that people will go down that route. But yeah. Also, to Edward's point about putting one camera on the goal line, it still doesn't always solve it. There's got to be not obscured, which can normally on a tight goal line clearance, there's a real risk of obscuring. Because
I think Statlacky and Tie Guy, I think they're looking at a broadcast angle trying to decipher it. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of ease. Jake will come on board later. He'll kind of give us.
He's probably seen it better.
Yeah, they're definitely doing some investigating digging over there. But
that
is an interesting idea. Where put some cameras on there on the corners. Maybe that'll help. You know what is a great idea and will help? Our friends at Arizona Lottery. That's certainly a good idea for the times. You can play their AZ Adventure program. 3 ways to do it. Very easy. Number 1, scratch off 3 iconic landscapes. Choose from Picacho Peak, Monument Valley, or Camelback Mountain. Number 2, you can go to checking in at geolocated adventures anywhere from Hole in the Rock to Flagstaff to Yuma. Go there, check in, boom. Get points, chance to win. And number 3, you have ability to enter tickets online for a chance to win $1 million in cash and Arizona travel prizes. Again, all you guys got to do, visit azadventure.com for more information on how you can take an adventure for a chance to win $1 million in cash and Arizona travel prizes. Where you can redeem those? Friends at Circle K. I need a Polar Pop. My voice is already hoarse. I'm in mid-season form. Horse, of course. Oh gosh, that's a my line, dude. That's really bad. That's really good.
I know.
I'm proud of you for that one. I'm proud. Circle K has got you there. Grab a Polar Pop. Sign up for the Inner Circle program. Again, all you need to do, download the Circle K app, enter in your phone number. You get discounted gas, free Polar Pops, free snacks, everything like that. Get your Arizona Lottery tickets there. Always good stuff. There's multiple. There's literally one. I can't see it, but it's really like right over there, right by the stadium. They everywhere. We here. Check out Circle K. Visit circlek.com for more information. Terms and conditions do apply and participating locations. Oh boy. All right. We kind of talked a bit about the game. Some of the highlights. Who are some players, right? Because there's a lot of guys from Phoenix Rising that stood out. I think, right, a lot of guys who, you say this a couple months ago, maybe they weren't going to be kind of thrust into this role, game 1 of the season in that starting 11. Who are some guys who you thought stood out, had a nice performance?
You know what? I'll say this, penalty shot aside, I think that Pat, my boy, knowing the age and all of that, I thought did perfectly fine in that role. He didn't look out of place on that field whatsoever. No. So again, knowing this is a young lad who has only just come from college, playing his first competitive professional game at this level, I didn't think that he looked out of place. That's a positive sign. Again, we'll get on to we'll get onto that in a second, about some of the players potentially coming back in the near future on that one.
Nice.
But I'm that gives me some confidence, I think, in this side, because you look at him, I don't think if everybody is healthy, he is a starter. But if you have someone who looks competent that can be a good bench option, I think that's very, very good.
Albert says, boy, is my new man crush.
Yeah.
And Albert was saying, he's like, hey, listen, this may not be a guy who stays here super long. Listen, I think it's a guy. He's so young, and he's in the middle of that defense. We saw throughout preseason, right, a lot of what we knew about this guy. Passing, not the best, maybe a little bit sloppy in terms of some of the touches, and maybe even a bit of there are some touches where it's like, hey, maybe a bit heavy, maybe he gets away from it. But if you're talking about straight up defending, the cover speed, the man marking, being able to step in and win a header, it wasn't glamorous. It wasn't the most pretty. It wasn't this over dominant performance physicality, but like the dude was where he needed to be. And aside from that handball, he had a very solid game. He did what you asked him to.
He did.
And being in the center of that defense in game 1 of the season, not much more you can ask for.
Yeah. I'll also say, and again, I kind of tinted on this one earlier, and BJ's mentioning it now, which is why I'm going to bring it up. But Rito, I thought Rito was all right.
Yeah.
I think Rito, again, showed those glimpses of someone who can be quite explosive, quite dangerous, bombing down the wing. I'm really intrigued by how that's going to work going down the line, down the season, really. Remi Cabral being fit will, of course, also help on that one. I still think there was room for improvement, definitely, with Darius Schwamella up top. I'm still not entirely convinced on the contributions of Federico Varela in this side as well.
Yeah.
Coming off of this game. Look, were they necessarily woeful? No, but they squandered some real opportunities in this game.
They did. Kind of going off Darius. I think we've kind of said he's a guy who we can play up top. He can be that number 9, even if he is on an island. He could do it, but I don't think that's not where we think he's best at. That's not where his best contributions are. It is whether it is that kind of false 9 roaming number 10 kind of hybrid. We're loving to be there because he has that ability to roam. He likes to go rover. He's able to take up those dangerous spaces. I agree, Fede. At this point, guy I think is more effective coming off as a sub. Guy who honestly very small cameo and very very small.
Oh, we're getting Jake in for a small cameo.
Yeah, Jake. Yeah.
I see a truck going past with Roma on the side, so that's why I'm thinking about that.
I mean,
one.
There's pizza.
It's pizza.
No free ads, but yes.
We're not saying what. It just has Roma on it.
Yeah. They do. He's talking about Daniel Rossi. A guy who had a very brief cameo and actually almost set up a goal. Almost had Remi Cabral scoring. Erickson Gallardo in very very limited
the one
minutes.
that
kind of that nice little heel flick, kind of where he's running diagonal from the box. Heel kicks it back. It was nice.
Okay, but what about is that the Cabral one when there was a handling in the build up and therefore I wouldn't have counted anyway, probably. No. There was different one. Good.
Different one.
Okay.
He was good. Right, Panos, it's limited, the action. Emmett Quajo had a couple rockets. The guys who you thought would step up did pretty well. Again, the thing that we keep on saying, I like that they were a little bit more on the front foot. I think in a very small sample size, again, it's only one match. You saw a bit more attacking, you saw a bit more shots, and the guys played a little bit narrow, which I didn't actually hate.
Look, here's what I'll say overall. The defense was all right.
Yeah.
It will get better, and the reason it's going to get better is exactly the same as why some of the attack may get better or may not get better. We'll see, but Remi Cabral, John Stenberg, Mo Traore, look, the expectation is if they can, and this is what Danny said after the game, that if they can, compete in training all week long, they could well be ready to be, they'd be available for selection in a more serious sense next weekend.
Yeah.
Obviously they were on the bench today. Cabral gets some more minutes. Look, all 3 of those have been struggling with injuries. There was a comment in the chat as well, asking about Juan Mayor and asking where he was.
Yep.
He also has, of course, been struggling with an injury from preseason. That one's going to keep him out for a little bit longer, we believe. Not too long, but a little bit longer. So look, they're moving in the right direction. They really are in terms of the injuries. So I'm not worried about the defense. I understand the starting Cabral. Again, Cabral, we need to be clear, was not 100% today, or at the very least, there's a reason he missed the friendly last week.
Yeah.
Okay. He's been struggling with an injury of sorts. He's getting back into full fitness. He's in a good spot now, much better spot now. Okay, but you've still got to be patient. You don't want to take silly risks early in a season, risking that a guy aggravates an injury too much, and then you find that he's missing a lot more games later down the line. You can afford to have a little bit of a struggle, okay, early doors. Look, again, there are still some questions I have around this team. I'm sure we'll get onto that come the midweek podcast this week. But overall, I'm not feeling necessarily that this is a disaster. Okay.
No.
I think, again, you got to give him a little bit of time. Okay, and I'm not saying like, oh, you got to give them months, right? That's not what I'm going down. Okay, a couple of games to get things working early doors. I understand that. Okay, there are some changes. I'm still a little bit nervy about the fact that how are you replacing guys like Manuel Arteaga? How are you replacing guys like Danny Trejo? They're difficult for people to replace. All right, but again, defense I think is solid.
Yeah, only going to get better.
When they're fully fit, they will be fine. When they're fully fit, I don't have questions about the defense that concern me.
Good job, Jacob.
Reese, behave yourself, Lackey.
Even Jacob's calling Reese out on that.
Yeah. You're supposed to post that on the Rising Talk Facebook group, I hear. That gets a much better reaction there.
Oh gosh, there'll be at least one in there tonight.
Oh, I'm sure there will be.
I agree with you on like the, again, the sky is not falling. This is literally one mad. And I think the thing is when we came off of last season's opener in that 1-1 draw, they got a point out of it. They got a result away, but it was very much like it's kind of languid. The defense was very shaky. There wasn't really an identity. And there was a lot of newness in the building. There's a lot of, new players in. Guys are out of action for right now. So there's a bit of those similarities there. But you kind of saw as they grew into the match what this team wants to be. It seems clear how they're looking to attack offensively. Again, one game sample size. But I think that gives me some hope. The defense, again, the upside is only going to be there. And, hopefully get a little bit healthier up top, get some guys in there and – let them work.
Sorry, we got Devon All in here, who's the president of the Ericsson Gallardo fan club. But you know what? We'll bring in someone. I think we should bring in someone. Should we loop in someone?
Want to do an ad break first or no?
Up to you, mate.
Let's get through an ad break, and then we will, go from there. And I mean, get through an ad break. We love our ad break, especially our friends with
You're making it sound like it's a chore, mate. I thought this was your thing.
OG's brand.
You are ad man after all. You even got the tattoo to show it.
Well, during the tattooing, there was a certain ouchie counter, and who was presented
Ouchies.
by? Who was it presented by?
Todd.
The ouchie counter. Who was
presenting? Todd said he could make it hurt whenever he wanted.
No, who presented? No, who was the partner that was presenting the ouchie counter?
Emma made it.
Are you trying to avoid the question? Who presented the ouchie counter? It was the blank ouchie counter.
I kept hitting to show it on the computer.
Dude, the OG's ouchie counter.
Oh, it's OG's, was it?
Oh my God, this guy sucks.
OG's.
This guy sucks. He knows the answer. This guy makes me say OG's. The OG's, I almost said the ouchie counter. The OG's is amazing. They have all their full line of products, the sleep edition, the minis. I love the minis. They have all great stuff coming up. But yeah, take a look at them. Find them at ogsbrands.com. Find them at OGs on all social platforms. Check them out and keep up with them. Find them at dispensary, all that stuff. Again, the fruits, the creams, mixed bags, everything like that. Check them out. They're literally amazing. Really great for after a match like this. So check them out, ogsbrands.com. Also, want to check out our friends at Four Peaks. So you must, of course, be 21 years old, not just for OGs, but also for our friends at Four Peaks. They have their new Bad Birdie beer. It is quite tasty. You've been sipping on them, having a nice little lager.
Good stuff.
They are good stuff indeed. They're juicy. Golden Ale. It's fantastic. Check them out. Wherever you find your beer, you can find them at Four Peaks. .com. Find them at their A Street pub. Grab some beer there. It's fantastic. And yeah, to keep up with everything they got going on at Four Peaks Pub and at Four Peaks Brew on Instagram. Also, you can find Four Peaks at our friends at Valley Taproom. Valley Taproom, right? They got the Gilbert, the Queen Creek location. They always have fun stuff going on. All the different beers, of course, Four Peaks is there. Wine slushies, little outdoor patio, wherever you are at, especially in that East Valley. Go check them out. Again, Valley Taproom. Find them on Instagram at Valley Taproom and find them online at valleytaproom.com. And, again, we're going to plan some more Phoenix Rising stuff throughout the season. All righty.
All right, we're bringing a guest in.
Mr. Jake.
Bringing in the tie man who's not wearing a tie.
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
Yes.
I want to see it.
It's not like definitive.
I mean,
Of course,
I don't care if it's blurry.
It looks.
Oh, that's so in.
That's in.
That's so in.
In.
That's so in.
Confirmed in.
That's so in. Okay, there we go.
My eyeballs.
That was.
And Adman Max is standing right there.
Adman Max.
And you're right next to me.
Yeah.
And you're right there in the corner.
Look at that.
This is really bad if you're listening on audio and or on visual. Because here we go.
I'm gonna steal Max's mic here. I think we'll. Yeah, no. So Jake, go on. What were your thoughts?
No, it's going to be a broken record of you guys. I mean, agree with pretty much everything you said. I think Danny said it perfectly post-match that it's very unfortunate that Phoenix didn't get anything out of it tonight. I think that if you look at from the penalty shout that both teams had and the fact that that should have been a goal originally for Birmingham, I think that they kind of offset each other. So you can kind of take those out and just look at everything else that we saw. Phoenix had a lot more chances. I mean, before that whole 5-minute scuffle before the end of the first half, I thought Phoenix was the better side and would be going into halftime talking about how do we eventually break this down and win this game maybe 2-0. Obviously, the goal changes games. The goal changes the game, but it
Thank you, Rick.
But it wasn't like you guys said, it wasn't like last year where you're like, where are the chances coming from?
No.
Right? They're creating them from the get-go, and now it's okay. Where are the chances going to be finished? Who is going to be that number 9? And Owen's been talking about the fact that Remi is not 100%. Is that why he was off the bench? It's certainly why he didn't play in the last preseason match. So is Darius maybe not going to be that guy? And I think Danny's still kind of figuring out who's going to be playing in all those spots. What's that triangle going to look like? Is it going to be Panos and Fede? Is it going to be Panos and Emi? Does he want to keep the left-footed players where they are? What is it going to be? And then defensively, I thought Wyke played well, really well, actually. I wasn't expecting the defense to play as well as they did, given who was starting.
He had that one when we in the the first half when we were kind of on that side of he pretty much saved a goal.
Yeah.
Now granted, Birmingham, if he takes that first time, that is an easy goal. The fact, hey, Birmingham hesitates, but Wyke was able to swallow it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So all in all, I thought it was a good performance. Like if you didn't tell me what the scoreline was and just I saw everything that happened, I'm like they played well. And it's just the unfortunate aspect of this sport to where you can be the better team for the majority of the game and still come away with nothing.
I mean, also call it is, even if it does cancel out the goals, a goal is a goal, but that deflect. I mean, dude, that was like from 25 plus out, a wicked deflection. Just like what are you gonna do?
So the goal, the deflection, right? And I was over by here when it happened. So what happens? Yeah, it's a long shot. It is heading more towards the far post. So obviously Rocco's going to be making movements in that direction, and it comes off the head effectively of a forward, right? But it's not a header. There's no control over that. It just bounces off of him and ends up going in the near post. There's not much you can do about those. It's annoying. It's one of the most irritating ways to give up a goal, right? Because you look at it and think, well, it was a long shot, so it wasn't as though you'd given up a particularly good opportunity defensively. It was a deflection, so you can't then turn around and say, well, is the goalkeeper reading it well or not off of the boot? Because when you have a pretty big deflection there, stuff happens, right? Rocco's proven his ability time and time again, but ultimately, when something is going towards one post and then suddenly immediately changes direction to go to the other post, you're not gonna get it. It's annoying. It's an annoying goal to concede, but not in a they should have necessarily done a lot better. Now, of course, if we sit back, we analyze the film, all of that, maybe what we're going to find is there were certain elements in there. We obviously haven't had time to do that.
Do we have XG? I haven't even.
We don't have it immediately. No,
I'm curious to see what that's at.
I'd be curious to see it as well.
Yeah. Who's like the guy coming out of the match that you were most high on?
I might have to say Lawrence Wyke, and not. I'm really trying to think about this because the performance he had was good, and I think I just had such a low expectation from the defense, being that no John, no Ale, Mo's still not 100%. So your 3 defenders from the final are all not available tonight for 90 minutes. Yeah. And I was just very, very surprised by how well the defense played. I was expecting it to be a little bit more sloppy at the back, and it wasn't. So I think, and that's why I asked Danny, how did you rate the depth that this team has, and defensively at least, for it's only been one game, so let's pause in terms of how much we put into this. But I am very impressed by the fact that the defense, for not having the 3 guys who started the final, like pretty much play up to par. And then the only other question, trying to figure out what Danny wants to do with the team, is just who is going to be the backup defensive mids for Renzo and for Jose, because there's really no one other than JB Sears. Yeah. There's really no one who's like you're like that guy. Because if you look on the bench tonight, he said it was going to be Emi, but we all know Emi's an attacking.
Yeah, right. It would have had to have been Scarce. You'd have had to have moved Scarce up there,
and then make Mo play defense.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think that's
as you look at. I mean, what you'd I mean, there's Julio in the squad, Julio D'Artiotto,
Right.
right, who can play in that kind of a role, but is not included in the match day squad today. Partly, again, I mean, look, you're leaving a guy like that out of the match day squad. It's rough. For those of you actually, and we should probably actually talk about this a brief bit because, of course, no one addressed this before. You know, USL Championship loves to do things without telling anyone. And so there are new rules on substitutions this year. Do you know that, Max?
9 of them.
Did you know that before? 9, but not that easy. Never that easy, is it? No. 7 of your subs, much like normally they would be, can be picked in a normal manner. You can choose whoever you want who are going to be on the bench. If you are the home team, but only if you are the home team, you may pick an additional 2 players. However, those players must be A, 17 or under at the time of signing their current contract, or B, currently signed to an academy contract, regardless of the age of the player at the time they signed the academy contract. So it's meant to encourage you to use homegrown players, but at the same time, it only benefits a home team.
This makes sense because when Jake and I were on that end, he turns over to me, and in 2 successive questions, he asked, well, number 1, who else do they have on the bench? It's just a bunch of young guys. Number 2, when did they get 9 of them?
Yeah. I found that nugget out because it was on the team sheet. The new team sheet form that the league use. No other reason. It was just on there. Yeah, thank you, USL Championship.
Yes. Jake, the one other thing I wanted to ask, and you kind of know now, we've talked a lot about the defense. We talked a lot about the attack and the shots. Something we haven't really touched on too, and you kind of mentioned, I guess, a bit in needing depth in their positions, but the midfielders. I think we noted Carlos Harvey is such an absence for this team, not being in the squad this year. I did see Renzo Zambrano. I think something that he looks to add to his bag a bit more is he definitely was either letting the ball run across from him or trying to turn with it, kind of be that player. We both know he's not. We all know he's not the like-for-like guy. He brings a lot of attributes, but how do they try to kind of mend that bridge to what Carlos Harvey did? Because there is no like-for-like replacement like that.
I don't think you can.
Yeah.
To be honest, there's an aspect of a type of player like a Carlos Harvey to where you can name how many players do what they do on your hand, and it's to try to recreate it. We kind of talked about it indirectly. We saw how deep Panos was coming to get the ball right, to whereas maybe Carlos can be that guy to break lines with the ball at his feet, to whereas now it's a little bit of a different game to where either Panos has to come deep or you have to be more direct to get it up to the forwards. Or if you're going side to side and you move it from the wings and move it up that way. But it's something that Carlos Harvey did for a team. It's the reason why he's in the MLS now, right? Like these type of players don't exist that often, and when they do, you notice them right away. Like you're like, holy shit! Like it's one of those to where he takes over the midfield completely.
Yeah.
So it's what happens when you win championships, man. You're gonna have a hard time replacing Manu and Danny. You're going to have a hard time replacing Kev. You're going to have a hard time replacing Carlos. That's just the reality of the situation they were in this offseason.
And again, I'll get into this, I'm sure, more on Tuesday. But for me, the way I look at it is you couldn't replace Carlos by a direct replacement. You weren't just going to drop a single player in there. You had to look about kind of replacing him by composite almost, right? Some of the defensive elements were going to have to be taken over by, to be fair, some of the guys that are on this team are capable of doing that. But then you needed someone else who'd have those other attributes that he possessed, right? The ability to really get things going sometimes from midfield as well, in a way that I fear we aren't seeing enough of from the midfield at the moment. And I'm not sure if we're going to see from the midfield as currently constituted. I mean, we'll have to see on that.
No, I 100% agree. I think Jose can be a great pivot. I think Renzo can play that position as well. But Carlos has the added aspect of just being able to be anywhere at any time that, again, not many players even have that skill to possess anyway. So I think, nailed that on the head.
I mean, it's finding someone who's being able to be a ball progressive, carrying it forward, being able to dribble. That's such an underrated thing in any league, but especially this one. And if you're able to make a team play one-dimensional with just either hoofing balls over the top or playing side to side, it's a very easy way to try to, nullify goals. So
we'll have to see who the high man on the tally for the yellow cards is going to be this year.
I mean, would say Renzo, but like maybe the captain kind of calms down. I don't know. We'll have to see.
We'll have to
We'll see.
Edgardo Rito. He's leading the discussion for me. We'll see. Do you anything else, gents? I think we covered a good amount here.
No, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Always, buddy. Well, appreciate everyone joining us here on the
Mr.
PHNX
Jake.
Rising
That is
podcast.
discount Captain Jack Anderson.
I saw
That's what people call him.
Albert's chat in there. Listen, he can call him discount, Captain Discount,
Discount
but
Jay.
nothing discounted about that suit jacket. Yeah, you're looking good, sir. Well, appreciate everyone joining us here on the PHNX Rising podcast. Of course, you guys know we'll be back on Tuesday, 6 p.m. per usual. In the meantime, you can follow us at PHNX__rising because double the underscore.
Double the incentive for us to come up with a new Max is doing kind of thing.
Why we got?
We need more shtick.
We don't need more shtick.
We need more shtick.
No,
Chat, hop in, help us. You can always hop in on Tuesday and help us as well.
I'm gonna end this before they hop in more. Anyway, you can
that makes sense, man.
You can follow me at Max David Simpson. You can follow Owen on Twitter at OJEvans18. You can follow Jake on Twitter at JWA1994. You can follow Reese on Twitter at Reese11_. I'm already gonna get this wrong. You can follow producer Jacob, who hasn't appeared once, at JFrank14. I might have gotten that wrong.
No, you got that wrong already.
Sorry, Jacob. Love you, buddy. Appreciate everyone. It is a beautiful game, but it's way more beautiful when you play the next game. See you guys.
We all silly like the mayor.